I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and we speak a little bit about finances. And it always surprises me how few people actually have a line of credit from the bank. And for us, the line of credit has been a lifesaver with situations coming up over the last 10 years that we were in business.
Welcome to Greater Than the Sum, the series where we demystify what it takes for small business owners in Canada and the accountants that support them to get control of their finances. I'm your host, Mark Assini, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Plooto. Plooto is an all-in-one payment automation platform that automates your payable and receivable workflows. If you're a small business owner in Canada who's ready to take control of your finances, or an accountant looking to spend less time on manual tasks and more time as an advisor, then you're in the right place. Join me as we uncover the secret to making your business greater than the sum of its parts. Hey Noah, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Mark?
Good, thanks. Excited to have you here.
Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Right on. Well, let's get into it then. Let's start with your name, your role, and where you work.
Absolutely. So like you said, my name is Noah Maislin. I'm CEO of Minutes Solutions. And what Minutes Solutions is we are a professional third-party minute-taking company.
So what would you say is the mission of Minute Solutions?
Well, verbatim, our mission is to provide organizations with peace of mind and security by taking accurate, unbiased meeting minutes and delivering them quickly. And what does that actually mean? What we're trying to do is become the best in the business at taking professional, unbiased minutes and delivering them to our clients in a very quick and speedy way. So they've got their minutes readily available whenever they need them.
What do you think people misunderstand most about the challenge you're trying to solve?
I think when I speak to people about my company and about my business, a lot of them just assume what we do is a verbatim transcript of meetings, and it's not. What we do is we know and we understand what is important in terms of a set of minutes and what needs to be included, but equally as important, we understand what does not need to be included. So I think a lot of people have a bit of a misperception of what we do. But the people that have actually been on a board before, when we speak to them, then they get it right away.
Fantastic. Well, great. Thanks, Noah, for helping us understand a little bit more about you, what you do, the why behind what you do, and more about the business that you run day to day. Let's shift gears and take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Tell us about your initial experience in the meeting minute taking industry and what inspired you to start Minute Solutions.
Like most people, I actually had no idea what meeting minutes were until I found out about a similar company. So I was brought into a company called Minute Solutions about 12 years ago. And I was doing a little bit of work with them. I was learning the industry. I was learning the business. I was learning that, professional minute taking was even a thing. Like I said before that, I had no idea it was a profession. I didn't know that you could start a company around that. But once I started working with Minute Solutions, I started to realize that there's tremendous opportunity here. So I worked with those guys for about 2 years, and then we parted ways. And that's when I started Minute Solutions. And I just saw a tremendous amount of opportunity, which motivated me. And that's really the story behind it.
You mentioned at the start of your journey, you weren't a minute taking expert. How did you go about getting up to speed to understand how to build a business in an area that was so new to you?
Yeah, another great question. So when I jumped into the business, once I started to understand what minute taking was, I figured, oh, hey, this isn't too hard. Anybody could really do it. So I started hiring people, students. I started hiring family members, just assuming that anybody could go sit in the meeting and take notes. I learned very early on that is absolutely not the case. It takes a very special type of person with a very specific skill set to be able to take professional minutes. So in order for me to better understand that, what I did is I spent 6 months doing every single minute taking course available, in person, online. I spoke with industry experts, and I really dug in to learn about minute taking as much as I can. And I really became the expert. I figured if I was going to run a business all around minute taking, I would need to become, or at least understand, how to be the best minute taker. I am definitely not the best minute taker, but I've always liked to say I'm a lot better as a coach than a player. So I could teach and I could train and I could tell you how to become the best minute taker. But unfortunately, I lack a lot of the skill sets that my staff have.
And what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you faced in the early days of Minute Solutions? And what did you do to overcome them?
I think like a lot of other entrepreneurs, I definitely experienced imposter syndrome. Why would people trust me? Why would people hire my service? But what I did to overcome them was, I really proved to myself that I belonged in this industry. I had a great company. We were delivering exceptional work. And, getting good and positive feedback continuously from your clients really helps combat imposter syndrome.
Even still, like you said, just being in there in the trenches and knowing firsthand what it's like being in those meetings, in those conversations, and what it takes to take, accurate notes that reflect what's actually happening. And as you said earlier, what parts of the conversation are worth documenting versus what aren't. I'm sure those are valuable skills that your clients and even your team will lean on you for. And you might not, as you said, be the best note taker, but having that institutional knowledge, I'm sure just helps you in conversations with prospective clients as well, navigating and explaining the value is that you're actually adding to them.
Yeah, 100%. And the big part of that is I went to do the training and I wanted to become the expert because we have an incredibly robust training platform now, which was created by myself and obviously some of our partners as well. If we're going to expect the best from our staff, then we need to make sure that they're trained from the best. And the program that we put together, it's definitely not an easy program to get through. But we have confidence that once our staff goes through our professional minute taking training, we have all the faith in the world that they're going to be exceptional at their job.
So payment processes at Minute Solutions must have been complicated. You pay over 150 contractors every 2 weeks. Talk to us about some of the specific challenges this presents to a business like Minute Solutions and how you adopted technology to streamline that process.
For us, it was an incredibly cumbersome process. We had to verify contractors' invoices. We were sending money all over the place, all over the country. And it was very manual process that took up a lot of time. It was literally taking 2 to 3 days, if not longer sometimes, for us to process our payments. So when we switched to more of a virtual approach, when we learned about Plooto, really, it allowed us to centralize things. It allowed us to have more of a singular spot where we could actually make the payments to our contractors. And it helped our contractors just as much as it helped us. They got a notification of when the money was coming in. They knew exactly when it was going to land in their account. If there was any issues, they knew directly from Plooto. So a lot of the times previously when we were doing contractor payments, we would get a lot of questions back from our staff. Hey, when's it going to arrive? When am I going to get my money? Are there any issues? But now we find with Plooto, a lot of those questions we don't have to field anymore, which also helps with, speeding up the process.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what would you say your team or even yourself is now doing with that extra time that you've saved from, like you said, spending 2 to 3 days previously? Now I would imagine spending minutes, maybe hours at most. What are you doing with that extra time?
In our line of work, there is always projects to be had. There's always work to get done. So yeah, it's nice to have some time back to work on some bigger projects and, focus a lot more on our customer service and the attention and the needs of our clients.
That's great. Yeah, it's always great when you can invest time that was otherwise spent on, low value transactional tasks and invest them in things that actually push the business forward or just build stronger relationships with your customers, as you said.
100%. Yeah.
Great. Can you describe a pivotal moment in your journey where you felt you had truly taken control of your business finances? And what changes did you make and what was the outcome?
Without naming any names, we were with one of the major financial institutions for several years, and we were having a lot of difficulties with them, just not giving the respect to small businesses that I thought a company like ours deserved. So it took a couple of years, but we eventually decided to switch banks. And now things are incredibly different. We get the respect that we need. We get the help we need. We get the support that we need. We're looked at as a partner rather than just a client. And that was, that was a big catalyst change for us, especially on our financial journey.
That's great. And I'm curious, what were some of the things that you considered when you were evaluating potential banking partners to move the business to? Were there any things in specific that you needed to have in terms of support or maybe even just how they ran their small business support system? Curious what that evaluation looked like.
Yeah, for us, we were really looking for somebody who would view us as a partner rather than just another cog in the wheel or just another client. So We vetted about four different financial institutions, and I pretty much started each meeting with, hey, we're looking for a partner. We're looking for somebody who's going to, give us advice, give us insight, help us through issues. If you're going to look at us just as another client and, just not give us the support that we need, then, we could close this conversation now. And some of them kind of acknowledged like, yeah, hey, we don't really look at our clients as customers. And those were quick conversations. But a couple of the banks let us know that, we look at our clients as partners. We help them through issues. We put forth ideas. And that was really the big thing that we were looking at.
So looking back, how has your approach to financial management evolved from when you first started to where you are now?
When I first started out, I was really worrying about tomorrow. Do we have enough money to pay our staff? Or do we have enough money to keep the lights on tomorrow? We were a small and scrappy startup. We've obviously evolved over the years. And now the way I look at things is, okay, financially, what do we need to do and what sort of strategic moves do we need to make for next year and the year after that and the year after that? Looking at it more of a 5-year plan type of thing rather than, are we keeping the lights on tomorrow?
And is that a conversation that you're having, independently and finding the time to ask yourself those questions and doing the analysis to answer them? Or do you have partners that you work with to help come to those answers with confidence?
A little bit of both. I think a lot of the ideas do start with me, and then I bring them back to my team, and we chat about them, and we make sure we're on the same page, and we explore these ideas. And then we lean heavily on our accounting firm. Big shout out to Connect CPA. These guys have been absolutely phenomenal over the last couple of years, and they've been helping us tremendously with everything that has to do with finances within our organization.
Yeah, it's always great to hear small businesses find the right partners, especially accountants, because there are so many out there. And much like your experience with the banks, I'm sure there were some that you evaluated that obviously just saw you as another client, but it sounds like you found someone that truly sees you as a partner. And I'm sure you know firsthand how well that has helped the growth of the business over the previous years.
You're exactly right. We've been in business for 10 years now. This is our third accounting company. And the first two, we just slowly outgrew them. They were amazing support, amazing help, amazing companies that was helping ours. But I guess fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, we slowly started to outgrow them. But we believe now, being with Connect CPA, we've got a very long runway with them, and we see us being with them for the foreseeable future.
How did you go about finding the right accounting firm partner? What was that evaluation process like?
So what I typically do is when I'm looking for a new vendor, or I'm looking for support, or I'm looking for help, or I've got an issue that I just don't know how to solve, I typically reach out to my network. I see from my network who's dealt with this problem before, or in this case, who's got a good accounting firm that they could refer us to. And I typically see who keeps getting referred the most. I'll make a short list of about 3 to 5 companies, and then I'll start vetting those companies myself. Obviously, review them online, set up calls with them, speak to their management team, see what they're all about. But it really starts from looking at my network, see who's got good things to say about others, and then digging in from there.
I think that's some really helpful advice. I'm sure others who are looking at evaluating, like you said, new vendors or partners will follow that to a T. So thanks for sharing it. And, you mentioned in one of your previous comments, finding the time to look forward 3 to 5 years out and asking yourself and your team some of those big financial questions just to make sure, financially the business is heading in the right direction, and kind of what the next strategic decisions you need to make to continue, growing and building the business's financial health. On a similar note, I'm wondering if we can transition and look at, some of the successes along that journey and maybe even some of the failures as well. So we'll start with my first ask here, and that's, what is one major financial mistake you made early on in your journey with Minute Solutions, and what did you learn with it? And then from there, what advice would you give other SMBs to avoid this in their own journeys?
Yeah, I think it ties into what I was saying previously is, when we first started out, we were really looking for tomorrow and not really down the line. So very early on in our journey, we learned cash is king, and cash on hand is incredibly important, or at least cash available to you. We came into a situation within the first few years of running the business where out of nowhere, we had a major expenditure coming up. It was unforeseen. and we were struggling to come up with the cash for it. So from that, I learned, it's really important to, maybe you don't necessarily need to have all the cash on hand, but having cash available to you and having resources that you could turn to in situations where you need to come up with a lot of cash quickly.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And it really mirrors, similar advice you hear your average person receive, right? You should always have kind of an emergency fund for the unexpected. And businesses should operate the same way, right? Things are going to come along the way that you didn't account for originally or that weren't in the budget at the start of the year that pop up. And like you said, it's comforting, and I would imagine puts your mind at ease knowing that you have, to your point, at least some cash on hand to help navigate those situations when unexpected things come up.
100%. I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and we speak a little bit about finances, and it always surprises me how few people actually have a line of credit from the bank. And for us, the line of credit has been a lifesaver with situations coming up over the last 10 years that we were in business. And a lot of times, it's great when we don't need to use it. Obviously, that's most beneficial, but just having it there gives us peace of mind, knowing that if something comes up, at least that's one resource that we could turn to for a little bit more cash for any of these unforeseen circumstances that pop their head every once in a while.
Love that. I think that's some great advice. So reflecting on your experience, how has your approach to evaluating and implementing new financial technologies evolved over time?
Like I said, we started business 10 years ago, and I think about this all the time. I try and always take a moment to reflect and look back on, when we started, how we started, where we came from, and, what the journey's been like over the last 10 years. It really blows my mind how far technology has come within, such a short amount of time. And that being said, it makes it a lot easier now to vet newer technologies. There's so many different message boards out there. There's so many people that have experience using these technologies. The technologies in themselves are just infinitely better than they were 10 years ago. So, I think developing trust in specific companies when they, launch new products, that helps. Going online, reading message boards, speaking to people who have used a certain product or a certain service or a certain company previously, that has helped a lot. But everything is really just at your fingertips. I could sit in front of my desk and pull up as much information about a company or a product that I need. And it just makes vetting them that much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, much like your accountant search and your banking search, are you leaning on your network for guidance on financial technologies as well?
Yeah, 100%. I'm typically reaching out to my network and asking, hey, what's the newest and shiniest toy that people are using right now? Or, here's a situation that we're dealing with. How are you guys dealing with that? And the amount of feedback I get is tremendous, but the amount of different technologies I learn about is also a huge help. Giving myself the knowledge to understand what is out there and what is available, that's a huge part of the conversation as well.
Yeah, I love that insight because it's much like your comment around having cash on hand. Just having that knowledge in your back pocket. Sure, you might not need any particular tool where you are in your current, journey and your current stage of growth as a business. But maybe, 5, 6, 12 months, maybe 48 months from now, that problem that solution solves is going to pop up. And like you said, if you stay on top of it, starting from at least a foundational level of knowledge is better than starting with nothing. So I think that's some great advice for others to heed when looking at kind of the solution landscape and what technologies are out there.
Absolutely. There's a piece of technology that we use pretty consistently in our business right now that I learned about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And then at the time, it just wasn't the right fit. We didn't really need it. But I kept my eye on it. And then as we grow and as we got bigger, we're like, okay, now is the time to engage that piece of technology and bring it into our organization. But it's literally been on my radar for years.
And like you said, much like a business can evolve and technology changes so quickly, maybe the solution that you look at today could look dramatically different 3 to 5 years from now, and suddenly offer you that value that maybe they didn't today, but that you desperately need in the future. So again, some solid advice. Well, Noah, thanks for taking the trip down memory lane, looking back at some of the things that went well financially for the business, where you maybe hit some bumps along the way and had some learnings. Let's transition into kind of the rapid fire portion of this conversation. So I'm going to throw a few your way and we'll just have you answer them as quickly as you can. So what's the first step a small business should take to streamline their payment processes?
I think you should carve out a plan, at least a roadmap to understand what it entails and what you actually need to achieve. Every company is going to be a little bit different, but if you actually write it down and you see what the steps are or what you're trying to accomplish, then you could start to see where you could intertwine technology. And then once you understand that, like I do, reach out to your network, say, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is our basic process. And then you could start learning about technologies that could help improve the process that you've mapped out.
Love that. And you mentioned evaluating the process you use to evaluate potential solutions and partners. But I'm curious more specifically, what's the criteria you use when evaluating new financial technologies for your business?
Typically, we'll look at the longevity of the company. How long has the company been around? How long has the product or service been around? We'll even look online to see what their ratings are, to see what the feedback is. When it comes to financial management and things like that, I typically like to see products that have been on their journey for at least a couple of years because, let's face it, every company is going to make mistakes. A lot of them make mistakes early, which is 100% acceptable. I mean, we've made a ton of mistakes as well. But if I'm going to use something and if I'm going to implement it in my company, I'd rather that service or product be a little bit more refined before I actually bring it in.
Makes a ton of sense. And how has using Plooto specifically improved your payroll operations?
It's helped us streamline our process. It's helped us save time. It's allowed us to centralize our payment system. We could send payments across North America, no problem. But honestly, as I mentioned before, I think one of the biggest things for me is knowing that my staff have a peace of mind, right? When we trigger a payment, they get an email. The email from Plooto says, hey, your money's going to arrive in this day. No questions. A lot of what I do is I have my staff on mind, and a lot of what I do is trying to make their lives a little bit easier. And if it's a simple thing where an automated email gets sent from Plooto saying, hey, your money is on the way, it's going to arrive on this specific day, that just gives a lot of people peace of mind. It eases them a little bit knowing, okay, cool, my money's arriving on this day. I could plan around that. I know when to expect it. So that to me is a really big piece and a really big pull for me to continue to use Plooto.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned about financial management in your entrepreneurial journey?
The biggest lesson I've learned is don't plan for tomorrow, plan for next year and the year after that. And like I mentioned before, either cash on hand or the ability to attain cash in short notice is huge for any business.
And what advice would you give to your past self before opening your own business?
I would say be scrappy, be tenacious, stick with it, and make sure it's worth it. So, make sure you're having a good time, make sure you're enjoying yourself.
And as someone passionate about tech, what advice would you give to other small business owners who are maybe hesitant to integrate new technologies into their operations?
I would say go slowly. There's so much out there that can make your head spin. Go slowly, figure out piece by piece what you need, what's going to benefit your company today. Do your research on that. Implement something small, implement something easy, and then expand from there. Once you incorporate technology into your company and once you understand the benefits of it and the ease of use, then it's kind of, stepping stones, right? You're going to introduce something bigger, you're going to introduce something more, and you're just going to continue on that path. And to me, I think that's a great piece of advice for anybody who's really starting to try or sort of getting into their technology journey with introducing technology to their company.
And speaking of continuing on a path, you've survived our rapid fire portion, so we'll transition again. And I got a couple more for you here. What would you say is your advice for listeners on how avoiding burnout and managing the financial health of their own organization?
Obviously, burnout is a big conversation these days, and it's common in so many industries and so many companies. What I would say is, no matter what, you always need to make time for yourself and your personal life. No matter how hectic work is, and no matter how many tasks you might have on your plate, it is incredibly important to make time for your personal life and your hobbies as well. So whatever it is that you like to do, myself, I love to play hockey. I love to travel, and no matter how busy I am, I always make time for hockey, and I always try and carve out some trip. And I think travel is, a good part of it. You could book a trip for 2-3 months down the line, and it gives you something to look forward to. So I think for me, that helps me with burnout.
I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I've got one more for you, and that's where can people learn more about you and Minute Solutions?
Absolutely. Quick Google search of Minutes, plural, solutions, plural. You can also find us at minutessolutions.com. Don't forget there's an S on Minutes and S on Solutions as well. And if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, talk about entrepreneurship, talk about travel, talk about business, talk about Plooto, you can reach me at noah@minutessolutions.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that, Noah. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have some takers based on the conversation we had today. Tons of great learnings. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners did as well. And thank you so much for coming on today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Mark. Really appreciate it.
That's all for today's episode of Greater Than the Sum. I hope you all got some great takeaways from our guest. Remember, taking control of your finances is within reach, and it's not as complicated as it seems. If you liked this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can check out more about Plooto on Plooto.com for resources, tips, and advice on how to get control over your cash flow. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like to discuss, let us know on LinkedIn, Instagram, or X. See you next time.